A lot of believers are not mainly suffering from lack of effort. They are suffering from the wrong view of life. And that matters because the way you see your life will shape the way you live it. If you keep seeing life through the wrong picture, you can stay busy, sincere, and even religious, while still being spiritually misaligned. That is the burden of this message. Many Christians are trying to fix habits without first confronting the deeper issue of perspective. They are reacting to stress, delay, problems, people, and pressure, but they have never really asked, what picture of life am I living from? Because if that hidden picture is wrong, then the whole direction of life gets quietly distorted. So in this message, we are going to walk through why hidden pictures of life matter so much, why worldly ways of seeing life must be replaced, what it means that life is a test, what it means that life is a trust, and why ordinary daily moments carry more spiritual weight than most believers realize. This is not just a message about mindset. It is a message about learning to live consciously before God. One of the strongest truths we need to face is that every person is living from some underlying picture of life, whether they are aware of it or not. People think life is a race, a game, a party, a battle, a journey, a puzzle. And whatever that hidden picture is, it starts shaping everything else. It affects expectations, values, pace, goals, and reactions. That is why this truth is so searching. It is not just addressing behavior. It is addressing the interpretation underneath behavior. A person may never say out loud how they see life, but they are still living out of that view every day. If someone sees life mainly as a competition, winning will become central. If someone sees life mainly as pleasure, comfort will become central. If someone sees life mainly as survival, fear will start setting the terms. And this is where believers need to wake up. You can love Jesus and still be unconsciously borrowing your basic view of life from the world around you. You can be a Christian and still interpret life through ambition, comparison, entertainment, self-protection, or personal image. That is why the deeper need is not just moral correction. The deeper need is transformed perspective. The way you see your life shapes your life. Perspective is not decorative. It is directional. It determines what you call important, what you call urgent, what you call success, and what you call loss. That is why two people can face the same kind of season and live through it in completely different ways. One person sees delay and becomes bitter. Another sees delay and becomes more dependent on God. One person sees pressure and collapses into anxiety. Another sees pressure and asks what God is doing in them through it. The outward event may look similar, but the inward framework is different. And that framework changes everything. False pictures of life are dangerous because they do not always announce themselves loudly. Often they work quietly. They sit underneath daily life and keep feeding distorted conclusions. That is why some believers stay trapped in the same emotional cycles. They are trying to manage reactions without replacing the view of life that keeps producing those reactions. So believers must stop borrowing their vision of life from the world and begin receiving God's view of life instead. The world is always offering interpretations. It tells you life is about status, achievement, visibility, pleasure, comfort, self-expression, or control. And if those assumptions go unchallenged, they will slowly disciple the soul. The Christian life is not only about rejecting sinful actions. It is also about refusing false definitions of reality. So the issue is not just, am I doing wrong things? The issue is also, am I seeing life wrongly? Because if life is being interpreted through the wrong lens, then even outwardly decent living can still remain spiritually off-center. One of the clearest biblical pictures we need is this. Life is a test. That means daily life is not spiritually neutral. God uses life to test character, faith, obedience, love, integrity, and loyalty. Life is revealing what is in the heart, and life is also shaping what the heart is becoming. That changes how you read your circumstances. Problems are not merely interruptions. Success is not merely something to enjoy. Conflict is not merely something to survive. Illness, disappointment, delay, criticism, unanswered prayer, and ordinary inconvenience can all become places where the heart is exposed and formed. And this reaches even into small moments. The way you treat people, the way you handle frustration, the way you respond when nobody sees, the way you act in ordinary tasks. These things may look small to us, but they are not insignificant before God. Many believers assume spiritual seriousness only appears in big decisions, dramatic suffering, or visible ministry. But ordinary life is full of testing ground. Tests do not just prove strength. They reveal reality. A person may sound faithful when life is easy, but a delayed promise may reveal impatience. A hard season may reveal resentment. A moment of success may reveal pride. A hidden disappointment may reveal how deeply a person was depending on something other than God. That is why testing should not be read only as punishment or interruption. Sometimes God allows the test to uncover weakness, deepen dependence, and prepare the believer for greater faithfulness. Even seasons where God feels distant can become deeply revealing. How do you respond when comfort is withdrawn? Do you still trust, obey, and remain steady when closeness is not emotionally felt? Many believers think something has gone terribly wrong every time God feels distant. But sometimes the deeper question is not simply, where is God? Sometimes the deeper question is, what is being revealed in me right now? What kind of faith am I actually walking in when emotional reassurance is absent? Once you understand that life is a test, nothing becomes trivial anymore. Every day matters. Every moment carries possibility. Every response has spiritual significance. That is such an important correction because many Christians divide life into spiritual moments and ordinary moments. They assume only certain hours count before God. But that is not true. Every second can become an opportunity to deepen character, show love, depend on God, or reveal what is truly ruling the heart. The small frustrations matter. The unnoticed choices matter. The hidden attitudes matter. The private responses matter. God is not only watching the stage moments. He is watching the formation of the person. But life is not only a test. Life is also a trust. Your time, your energy, your intelligence, your relationships, your opportunities, and your resources are all gifts entrusted by God. That means life is not self-owned. It is stewarded. This is a major shift because people naturally drift toward ownership language. My time, my gifts, my money, my opportunities, my life. But everything belongs to God. What you have is entrusted to you for management, not possessed by you for self-centered use. That means your schedule is stewardship. Your body is stewardship. Your relationships are stewardship. Your abilities are stewardship. Your work is stewardship. Your influence is stewardship. Once you begin to see life this way, entitlement starts losing power. Gratitude grows. Responsibility sharpens. Accountability becomes more real. And if life is a trust, then waste becomes more serious. Neglect becomes more serious. Self-centered use of God-given things becomes more serious. But it also means faithfulness in simple things becomes more meaningful than many people realize. Many believers want significance, but they do not always want stewardship. They want purpose, but not accountability. They want blessing, but not careful management of what God has already given. But if life is a trust, then how you handle what has been entrusted to you becomes part of your worship and part of your discipleship. This is not meant to crush you. It is meant to awaken you. You are not wandering through random possessions and random years. You are handling what belongs to God. That gives dignity to life, but it also gives weight. And when you put these two truths together, life as a test and life as a trust, the result is a very different kind of Christian living. You stop moving through life casually. You stop assuming daily events are empty. You stop treating your resources as self-owned. You stop dividing the world into spiritual moments and ordinary moments. Instead, you begin living with awake eyes. You start asking better questions. What is this moment revealing in me? What has God entrusted to me here? How am I responding under pressure? Am I handling what belongs to God faithfully? Am I drifting through life, or am I living consciously before Him? That is the real burden of this message. Not simply to give you a clever framework, but to wake you up to the moral and spiritual significance of ordinary life. And there is grace in this. God does not test His people without grace. He does not allow the tests of life to exceed the grace He gives to endure them. That means the believer is never thrown into testing as one abandoned. God watches, God strengthens, and God provides a way to stand firm. That matters because some believers hear the language of testing and immediately feel crushed. But the point is not despair. The point is seriousness with hope. God wants His people to pass the tests of life. He is not playing games with their pain. He is forming them, exposing weakness, strengthening trust, and preparing them for reward beyond what they can currently see. So the Christian life is not casual, but it is also not hopeless. It is demanding, but it is not cruel. There is grace in the middle of the testing, not only after it. So the central question of this message is not only, what am I doing with my life? It is deeper than that. It is, how am I seeing my life? Because if you see life wrongly, you will live it wrongly. If you see life only as a pursuit of comfort, success, image, or survival, then those things will quietly shape your whole direction. But if you begin seeing life from God's view, then everything starts changing. Daily moments stop feeling small. Problems stop feeling random. Resources stop feeling self-owned. Character becomes more important. Stewardship becomes more serious. Faithfulness becomes more central. And that is where real Christian clarity begins. Not when a person merely tries harder, but when they begin seeing rightly. So maybe the question you need to ask is not only what needs to change in your habits. Maybe the deeper question is what needs to change in your sight. What hidden picture of life have you been living from? What have you been assuming life is? What have you been letting define importance, urgency, success, and meaning? Because once God changes the way you see life, He starts changing the way you live it. And that is where peace, sobriety, responsibility, and faithfulness begin to grow. Not in careless living, not in self-owned living, but in a life lived consciously before God, as one being tested and as one entrusted.